All right, today we're breaking down a really unique playbook for traders. It's one that fuses three worlds that, honestly, you almost never see in the same sentence. We're talking elite performance psychology, ancient financial wisdom, and a faith-based operating system. So let's see how these pieces actually fit together. And this quote from the source really gets right to the heart of it. The idea that a 2,000-year-old text could be a masterclass for modern trading psychology. I mean, that's a bold claim, right? And it really sets the stage for a blueprint that goes way, way beyond your typical market analysis. So, what is this playbook exactly? Well, at its core, it's a complete system built on three interlocking pillars. And it's designed to build not just a better trading strategy, but a better trader. So you've got three main components here. The first is what's called an advanced trader mindset, and this is pulled straight from the world of elite performance psychology. The second is a strategy for wealth building, but it's framed as stewardship. We're talking multi-generational impact here. And the third is a foundation of faith, which acts as this really unique financial and emotional operating system. Let's dig into how they work in the real world.
First up, the mind. See, this framework argues that the mental game of trading is pretty much identical to what elite athletes go through, so it just borrows battle-tested techniques directly from their world.
You know how elite performers talk about being in the zone? Well, turns out it's not some kind of magic. It's a real neurological state called transient hypofrontality. It's basically when part of your conscious brain quiets down, letting you make sharper, more intuitive decisions. And here's the key. The argument is that this state isn't random. It can actually be triggered on purpose by traders who know how to create the right conditions. But, getting into the zone takes a very specific kind of training. This framework makes a huge distinction here. Most traders practice, they put in the hours, but very few of them actually improve. And the reason why? They aren't using what psychologist Anders Ericsson called deliberate practice. That's a targeted, feedback-driven process that's always pushing you right to the edge of your abilities. And to really hammer this point home, the source uses this ancient proverb. It's all about emphasizing that elite performance comes from skill that you build piece by piece through that deliberate practice. It's not about being born with some raw talent. It's about the disciplined work you put in to refine your craft. So here's a super practical tool for managing the pressure. Think of an elite tennis player between points. They have a little ritual to reset. It's the same idea. Every trade you take leaves behind some kind of emotional junk, and this simple routine is designed to clear all that out before it can poison your next decision. Okay, so once the trader's mind is disciplined, we can move on to the second pillar, the wealth blueprint. This philosophy completely reframes wealth building. It's not about just piling up money for yourself, it's about multi-generational stewardship. And that, right there, totally changes the goal of the entire financial game. And the whole foundation for this is a pretty radical shift in how you think. The goal isn't just your own wealth. It's about leaving an inheritance for your kids' kids. So now you're focused on building not just financial capital, but also the human and social capital. The skills, the wisdom, the reputation. That's the stuff that really lasts. So how do you actually build that kind of long-term wealth? The system uses this ancient model to argue for resilience, specifically resilience through income diversification. In this model, trading is just one of your streams of income, which helps protect the whole financial structure when, not if, shocks come along. And this isn't just some vague idea either. The source material lays out this really specific 5-year journey. It turns that big aspiration for wealth into a structured, step-by-step plan. And you gotta notice the order. Foundation before skill, and skill before you scale up. So many people get that sequence wrong, and that's exactly where their plans fall apart. All right, now we get to what is probably the most unique part of this whole blueprint, using faith as an operating system. And we're not just talking about motivation here. This is framed as a practical, psychological tool for handling the intense emotional roller coaster of trading. And the playbook goes right for the jugular, tackling this question head on. Because for a lot of traders of faith, this is a real internal conflict. Is the whole pursuit of financial success actually at odds with their core beliefs? The answer here comes down to a really critical distinction. The source argues that Scripture doesn't condemn wealth itself, but the love of it, when you place it above everything else. This simple shift reframes the whole mission from greed to one of responsible stewardship. But that brings up another really deep practical question. What are you supposed to do when you pray about a trade and then it loses anyway? It can feel like a pretty serious contradiction. And the answer given is pretty profound. Prayer in this system isn't treated like some divine crystal ball to predict the markets. Instead, it's a psychological tool to adopt a posture of humility. And it's that humility that acts as a guardrail against the single biggest account killer there is: destructive, ego-driven decisions. So, how do all these pieces, the peak performance mind, the stewardship money plan, and the faith-based operating system, how do they all come together to form one single coherent system for a trader? This table shows you exactly how it all integrates. And you can really see the connections, right? Your mindset of deliberate practice is what makes the 5-year plan even possible. And having a faith-based identity that isn't tied to your P&L is what allows you to emotionally survive the drawdowns of that plan. Each part literally supports the others, creating a trader who's disciplined, resilient, and driven by purpose. So the key takeaway here is this: these aren't just 3 separate lists of good advice. Think of them more like 3 strands of a single rope. When you weave them together, they create a complete identity for a trader, one that's actually strong enough to handle the immense pressures of the market for the long haul. Ultimately, this whole framework argues that this fusion of ideas isn't just for, peace of mind. It's designed to provide a tangible, measurable performance edge. And that leaves us with a final, and I think pretty provocative question to think about.